Hello, my name is Kevin. I'm the chef of Cuca Restaurant in Bali. Thank you all very much for joining us for today's webinar, Cooking Without Recipes. Now, I'd like to give a special shout out to all those people, our regular customers of Cuca that are watching us today, especially people like Ben in England or Carlos in Spain, but we have people watching from all over the world, which is fantastic. So obviously, I'm a chef, as you can see. Now, when anybody finds out that I'm a chef, and this is what I do professionally for a living, people get super excited. Immediately, they're like, oh my God, that must be amazing, right? Well, how lucky your wife is. That's true. Actually, that's true. How lucky your family is. That's not true. But then they try and relate. I love cooking, Kevin. I like making cookies and muffins on the weekend for my friends. Okay. Making cookies for your friends has nothing to do with working in a professional kitchen. Nothing. Working in a professional kitchen, just so you know, it sucks. It sucks. I think it possibly might be the worst job in the world. Hospitality, period, it sucks. Birthdays, holidays, celebrations, you're working. You've got your life, and then you've got work. And you never do this, ever. You basically just work. Now, I know I've spent the past 22 years cooking, working all over the world in some of the world's best restaurants. So please take my word for this. Young culinary students ask me all the time. They say, Chef Kevin, I'm just starting out in my culinary career. What words of wisdom do you have for me? And this is what I tell them. Get out while you still can, young sprout. You have time to do something else. Cooking is the worst job in the world. Now, again, let me illustrate this for those in disbelief, saying, I like making cookies. Let me illustrate this with a story. Back in 2001, I was lucky enough to work for one of the world's great chefs, Daniel Boulud, in his flagship restaurant, Daniel, in New York City. Now, Daniel is an interesting character. He's kind of like the French version of Batman. He's nowhere to be found until the moment you make a mistake and he's standing right bloody behind you. He is frightening. You are never safe in this restaurant, ever. Any day could be your last. Any mistake could be the end of you, okay? We would all wake up every morning with this fear of dread and loathing, just waiting for the daunting day that lies ahead. I've seen people fired in the middle of dinner service. I've seen people thrown out of the business. I've seen people literally go downstairs, hey, I'm gonna go get carrots, and leave and never return. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? Wrong. Cooking is the worst job in the world, for sure, unless you love it. And me, I absolutely love it. I love the chaos and the madness and the intensity that is a world-class kitchen. I've been drawn to it since I was 15. I started cooking because I love eating, but these kitchens became my home, and I became obsessed with this Olympic environment of chaos that is the world-class kitchen. Not only places like Daniel, but restaurants like Arzac, 3 Michelin stars in northern Spain and San Sebastian. Amazing. Or La Broche in Madrid, 2 Michelin star restaurant. Fantastic. Or the world-famous El Bulli, 3 Michelin starred restaurant. Brilliant. I worked at all these places. Or I should say, I've been abused happily at all these places. And they teach you 2 very important lessons. Number one, survival. Yeah, survival. How to stay afloat in the tsunami of chaos that is a world-class kitchen every day. How to dodge all of the problems and just basically stay alive in the environment. You learn that. Very applicable in life. Number two, copy and paste. Literally the same like in your computer. Copy and paste. So there is no creativity and kind of, wait, chef, I have an idea. Nobody cares. Your job is to take exactly what you're showing. Chef comes, do this, how, show you, and you replicate. You do exactly what you're showing every single time in chaos. That is the life of a world-class cook. And that's exactly what I learned at these restaurants. No creativity, no cooking without recipes, merely following the steps, following the yellow brick road, okay? Now, these restaurants eventually took me to Asia. And I started my career, my first 7 years, with Shangri-La Hotel. First in Malaysia, and then in Singapore. I ran their fine dining restaurant, okay? And I ran all their special events. So I was kind of the guy. Now, I had a big decision to make at the time, which was, do I take this amazing opportunity and really start creating my own dishes, right? Speaking my own language, carving my own path of creativity? Or do I simply copy and paste the dishes from these other great chefs and serve them as my own? The problem was I didn't know how to create. I didn't know how. Nobody teaches you how to create. I was the king of copy pasting. I was bound by recipes. I was handcuffed to them. So, with no other option, I simply copy and pasted. Now, it went very well, but things dramatically changed in 2013 when I had a big idea to open my own restaurant. Now, the only person that didn't think it was a good idea was my wife. But I eventually convinced her, like I convinced most of you, to watch today's seminar. And we did open a restaurant. We opened up Cuca in Jimbaran in Bali. Now, Cuca is located in the most beautiful coconut grove, where coconut trees hang and sunlight gently shines through. It's amazing. But it's located in a quiet, sleepy fishing village down a road with no lights in the middle of bloody nowhere. Nobody was going to walk by and say, hey, I'm hungry, let's go there, because no one's walking by. Okay? We would be a destination for sure. Now, to get people to come to us, we knew we needed to do something special. We were convinced of it. So instead of simply copy and pasting, we knew we had to create. This was our moment. Not only did we need to do the menus, the tables, the chairs, the glasses, the cutlery, and every element, we knew we needed to create, most importantly, the dishes. But like I said, I didn't know how. So we figured out this magical secret, and we discovered how the hell to do this. And that's exactly what we did in Cuca. We started creating all these dishes, copying nothing. So no more karaoke. We demanded to drive our own highway and do everything ourselves. And soon, people came to see these creations. And Cuca became excited and famous, with many people looking to discover our creations. Now, why am I here today? To teach you the secret. To teach you the secret that nobody else teaches you. Now, you're going to get all of this without the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the chaos of the professional kitchen. Kind of like baking cookies for your friends. So don't forget, let's now talk about the secret. But before, we're stretching it, this is unlike any other masterclass you've probably ever seen. As a matter of fact, this is not a cooking class at all. We're going to teach you how to cook actually nothing. We're not even going to talk about cooking. What we're going to talk about is this amazing idea that I believe is traditional cooking classes are a total, utter waste of time. Total waste of time. Why? Well, thank you for asking. 4 reasons. Rule number 1, you for sure are going to forget. People forget everything. You don't even remember my name. Now, if you forget in a traditional recipe, in a cooking class, all those little steps, roast the chicken, then add the garlic, don't forget to add the bay leaf, when do you add the salt, when do you add the pepper, oh my god, I forgot the chicken. These are all going to equal, at the end result, disaster. Okay? So traditional cooking classes don't work, rule number 1, because you are going to forget. Number 2, traditional cooking classes are ingredient-based, meaning you need to have exactly what I'm showing you to make. Now that's difficult when I'm in Bali and you're God knows where. So I might have beautiful small scallops and you might not. You might have mussels, or I'm doing a mussel dish and you only have clams. Now you can't just substitute one ingredient for another because it never ends up the same. Cooking is precise, okay? Traditional cooking classes, ingredient-based. Rule number 3 of why traditional cooking classes don't work at all. Technique. Cooking is mastered through repetition and technique. Like the way a Japanese chef would meticulously be able to make a sushi, right? Now, if I gave you fish and rice, and in 20 minutes I showed you how to make sushi, you are not going to end up with a sushi. It would kind of be fish and there'd be rice, but to tell a Japanese master chef that sushi would be insulting for him and not advantageous for you at the next dinner party when you're claiming you're a bloody expert. So rule number 3, you need to master techniques, and that's what is cooking. And last, and most importantly, is when you screw up by forgetting or substituting ingredients or not being able to do it, you are definitely going to blame me. And we absolutely cannot have that. You understand? I know you guys. I know exactly the types of people that are in the restaurant or watching a video or taking my class. And we can pretty much separate you into 3 simple categories of people. Now I want you to identify which type of person you are in these 3. Person number 1, outlaws. Dum 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 dum. Outlaws love eating, but they really could care less about cooking. Totally. Now, they probably don't even want to be watching this video in the first place. And you're probably looking at you right now saying, I don't. Thems are the outlaws. Person number 2, puppies. Now, the puppies, they not only love eating, but they deeply enjoy cooking. But they are bound by recipes. They are so bloody recipe dependent that the minute you substitute an ingredient or they don't have anything, like immediate, sweating and bad things begin to happen. They shut down and they abort mission and they run away. Total dependency to recipes. Puppies. Probably most of you. Person number 3, the optimists. Now, optimists, they do like cooking, but they're above the recipes. They think recipes are merely suggestions that they can or cannot follow at their discretion. And the style which they cook is kind of open the fridge and just kind of grab things and start throwing them together. More freestyle, okay? Now, your results as an optimist can range from shockingly delicious to where everyone's like, this is good, to totally inedible. And you have absolutely no idea why. Now the good news is this class is for all of you. Each and every one of you. For the outlaws, we're going to give you the tools to look smart while you're ridiculing and destroying other people's food. So the next time you go to a restaurant and sit down, you'll be able to thrash that plate of food looking smart and dapper, which is exactly the point that you've always wanted. For the puppies and the optimists, we're going to go one step further. We're going to be able to teach you the secret on how to be able to compose food like music, to be able to use ingredients like a puzzle of flavor that doesn't taste like crap, and ultimately shut up the bloody outlaws. Great. But one thing is for sure, for all of you, after this class, you will look at food differently. You will taste things for the very first time. Even food you you thought you knew will simply no longer seem the same. And you will begin to see new ideas everywhere. That is my promise to you. Now, instead of simply teaching you the tricks of how to make one dinner, like a traditional cooking class, we're going to give you the tools to make hundreds or thousands of dinners by giving you the secret of how to be able to create your own dishes without being dependent on those bloody recipes. So, essentially, the skill not for one dinner, but the skill for the rest of your life. Now, we only have 30 minutes left to do this. And as I said, we're packing 22, 23 years of culinary experience into an hour, which is a lot. So if you have to walk the dog, or you have to go to the toilet, or your phone rings, you cannot leave. You miss a minute, I think it's equivalent, well, it's a lot. You miss a minute, you're missing my entire apprenticeship. So stay put, don't go anywhere. Now, if you have any questions, you just need to let us know in the live chat, and we will get back to you. Lovingly, kindly, don't worry, no such thing as stupid questions, right? Now, don't forget, this is a very critical moment, your worksheet. I want you to make sure you have it. You will also need a pen or a pencil, preferably a sharp one. Now, let's go to first exercise number 1. Now, we're going to do all the exercises together. So, exercise number 1, you have 5 questions. Now, I want you to go down those questions one by one. And again, we're going to do it together. So, don't start filling it out, Billy. We're going to go through it together. And I simply want you to write, what does it taste like? So, question number 1. You've got a candy full of sugar. Now, what do you think it tastes like? Sweet, right? Write it down. Question 2. You've got a lime, a slice of lime. Now, if you take that and you squeeze that in your mouth, what does it taste like? Sour, right? Write it down. Question number 3. You've got a shaker of salt. So if you shake that into your face, what does it taste like? Salty, right? Good. So write down salty. Last but not least, number 4, we're working on it. Number 4, cup of coffee. No cream, no sugar, just a strong cup of coffee. What does it taste like? Bitter. So write down bitter. Now I want to stop there because we're only at the first 4. Let me sum this up. Sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. That's all your mouth can taste. Nothing more. And actually, those 4 are the elements of taste. That's it. And that's very important to remember. Now, the next one, number 5, does not belong to taste. We've got a little leaf of basil. Now, what do you think a leaf of basil tastes like? Guess. Aroma. Aroma. So for number 5, I want you to write aroma. Good. Now, aroma is critical. And let me explain. You've got, aroma belongs to a different category. So aroma has really, it doesn't belong to taste. So you've got taste, sweet, sour, salty, bitter. Okay? Now, the minute you add aroma to that, those 2 together give you flavor. Ooh, and taste and flavor are a little bit different. 80% of flavor comes from smell. Now, you can smell 10,000 different odors. 10,000. You can only taste 4. So flavor is critical, or aroma is actually critical to flavor. Now you know this because the last time you got the cold or a flu, food became flavorless. We know this. So let's now move to exercise 2. Now in this exercise, what we're going to practice practice is exactly what we just did. Taking an ingredient and categorizing it based on its flavor. Now this is critical for you being able to wean yourself off like a child on mom's milk of these recipes. And it's going to help you critically to be able to start creating your own dishes. So let's now start exercise 2. We're going to work through the 15 questions together. And what I want you to do is not think of coffee as coffee or salt as salt. I want you to start but coffee, bitter. Candy, sweet. Dominant flavor, write it down. Let's go to question 1. First question, banana. Now what do you think banana would be dominant flavor? What does banana taste like? Sweet. Fantastic. Write it down. Question number 2, vinegar. Listen, Marcia. Nobody said, what kind of vinegar? Red one? Vinegar. Vinegar. Sour. Fantastic. Write it down. Question number 3, anchovy. What do you think? Salty. Easy. Question number 4, more difficult. Cauliflower. Bitter. No, don't argue. Bitter. Write it down. Number 5, thyme. What do you think? Difficult. Because I think it's bitter. Listen, how do you use thyme in a dish? You add it in and it perfumes the food, right? Aroma. So it's the same like the basil. You're using it to give fragrance to a dish. So for number 5, thyme, you're going to write aroma. Number 6, beer. Bitter. Perfect. Number 7, star anise. Star anise. Do you know what star anise is? Star anise. Aroma. Again, used to perfume a dish. Number 8, cheese. Like a Parmesan or a sharp cheddar. Salty. Good. We're coming a long way. Number 9, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate. Bitter. Good. Write it down. Number 10. Soy sauce. Salty. Easy. Number 11. Broccoli. Bitter. Yeah, bitter. Write it down. Number 12. Caviar. Salty. Good. Write it down. Number 13, cinnamon. No. Cinnamon. Aroma. Good. Number 14, leek. Bitter. Write it down. Number 15, vanilla. Aroma. Great. Now Now you got it, okay? This is 90% of the class in your brain. So starting now, immediately, today, I want you to do this with every ingredient you come across in your life. I immediately, whenever you go shopping, whenever you go to your pantry, whenever you go anywhere, I want you to immediately start categorizing ingredients always based on their flavor. Why? Let me give you a simple way how this can help. So imagine you go to a supermarket and you have a recipe, because you're still on the recipes, right? You're still on the recipes. And the recipe is for lamb meatballs with pomegranate and mint. Now, you go to the supermarket, you grab your lamb, you go to the section for pomegranate, puppies, and there's no pomegranate. You're suffocating? No need. Question, what flavor does pomegranate represent? Bing, sweet. Choose anything else that represents the category of sweet. Grapes. Done. Solution. You make the same dish with the substitution of grape for pomegranate, success. Now what happens if they don't have mint? Same thing. Mint, aroma, Substitution, cinnamon, lavender, tarragon, rosemary. Easy. So immediately you no longer need to depend on these bloody recipes at all. Now the challenge with cooking your own food is not only do we want to start creating, but we need to make sure it's delicious. Now delicious is critical for you to be able to do all of what we're telling you to do. So let's talk for a moment a little bit about delicious. And let's start with instinct. So humans have been on planet Earth for over 200,000 years, and survival is embedded in our DNA. Now, we no longer need these caveman survival instincts every day simply to go through life, but they're still deeply embedded in who we are. So, because of this, there's two flavors the human body has absolutely learned that it must consume. The first is sweet. Sweet foods we have always used and consumed to gain energy for, climbing, running, harvesting, killing, whatever we did 200,000 years ago. The other is salt. Salt is critical to our muscles and our nervous system so the body functions. Without salt, you die. You remember, all your body fluids are salty. Blood, sweat, tears, saliva. So salt is critical to our survival. There's two flavors that the human body has always learned to avoid. The first is sour. Sour indicates food that is spoiled, rancid, or rotten. Things that if you consume will make you sick. And the other is bitter. Bitter is an indication of toxin. Toxin in leaves are herbs that will probably kill you, so over time you want to avoid this. Now you think to yourself, the best indication of understanding this, not as a reaction, but as something that you cannot control, is children. Children, from before they can talk, they react automatically without thinking to these four flavors. For example, if you give any kid anything salty or sweet, it's immediately consumed. Why McDonald's has salt and sugar to 99% of everything that they produce. And if you think about giving a kid anything sour or bitter, it's immediately repelled. This is DNA. So the next time you need to cook for a child and get them to eat whatever it is that you're making, especially something like vegetables, bitter, try to mask those bitter flavors with salty and sweet, adding pumpkin to spinach, or a little bit of bacon to broccoli. Will definitely have the children putting in the mouth and swallowing whatever it is that may be bitter and sour. Therefore, you have to also remember, why as adults do we love bitter flavors? Well, this process of accepting or rejecting a flavor has always been the way the human body has learned to protect itself. But bitter is a little bit weird. Bitter we learn to love because bitter gives you something in return for your effort. For example, you eat vegetables because they make you healthy. You drink coffee because it gives you energy. You drink beer because it makes you happy. So this is critical to think about. Then you also need to consider that you automatically try and balance those flavors. So you think, oh, but I love bitter. No, you don't. The first time you had anything bitter, first cup of coffee, sucked. First time you had a beer, it sucked. Balancing the flavors was the key of acceptance. In coffee, how many just love to drink black espresso? Nah, cream and sugar, balance of flavor. Beer at a bar, salted peanuts, balance of flavor. And this idea of balancing flavors is something you need to master when you begin to create your own recipes. So let's now move to exercise 3, where we can talk more about classics. So what makes a dish a classic? Fantastic balance of flavor. Classic dishes are delicious. That's why they've been around forever. So what's the difference, for example, if you talk about a lasagna, of the best lasagna you ever had, an average lasagna, or a crap lasagna? Well, a crap lasagna is easy to identify, but the difference between good and great is subtle. It goes right back back to fantastic balance of flavor. Now, for something to be delicious, it must contain sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and aroma. If it's missing any one of those components, you will immediately identify it's good, but it's not the best I've ever had. Now, that's really easy with something like salt, but it becomes very difficult with something like bitter or something like sour. So let's now look at an example and start to really understand balance of flavor. So exercise number 3 is a picture of a paella, something you'd get in a beautiful patio by the ocean of Barcelona. Now let's go through those elements. There's 5 elements, and each one is going to give one of the crucial balance of flavors to this paella. Let's start with number 1, peas. Now, beautiful peas, fresh, round peas, what do you think they would give the paella? Sweetness. Perfect. Write it down. What about number 2, lemon? Just when you get it at the table, you squeeze the lemon all over the top of the paella. Sour. Correct. Acidity. Now that same paella, without that squeeze of lemon, is going to seem dull and heavy. But the minute that lemon juice hits it, it's bright, it's exciting, it's electric, it comes alive. What about number 3, chorizo, the cured Spanish sausage? Salt. Saltiness. Correct. Now what about number 4, parsley? Spain doesn't have a lot of herbs, and parsley is one of them. Aroma. Excellent. Write it down. And the last is these green peppers, these long green peppers. And they cook those at the beginning of the paella, like kind of sofrito with garlic, and they roast it, and that gives the dish bitterness. Outstanding. So even something as simple as a paella or a pizza or a burger or any dish will always have a balance of flavor. Now, in each category of a dish, that flavor balance is going to change. It's different for a main course than it would be for a snack or an appetizer, or obviously a dessert. So let's now move to exercise number 4, where we can talk about proportions, about what is the dominant flavor those dishes need to be. Now this is obviously critical, because if we're going through, you need to think to yourself, what is it dominated by? So sweet, sour, salty, bitter. What is dominating those major categories? So let's now go to the first one, which is a snack. So something like potato chips or nuts. When you eat those, what would it be dominated by? Salt. Snacks normally are something salty. Bars use them. They add buckets of salt to kind of get the saliva going, get you thirsty, so you drink more beer. Good. What about number 2? What about number 2? Appetizers. Salad, ceviche, tomato, sour. Appetizers always should be bright, exciting, vibrant, not super heavy, okay? So sour. Now, not heavy because they're always followed by a main course. Now, main courses are a little bit tricky. Now, I want you to think the main course is meant to be the most nutritious, so it's always going to be dominated by vegetable and some type of protein. And the cooking plays a huge role in this. So roasting meat or roasting chicken changes that meat to a dark golden bitter. Main courses always tend to be dominated by bitter. And what about desserts? Yeah, no brainer. Sweet. Now this is really important because you need to know. Now a dessert still needs to have sweet, sour, salty, bitter aroma. It still needs these elements. Even if you look at a classic chocolate cake, you look at the recipe, there's salt in there. And you think, but why would they add salt? So you tick the box on delicious. If you remove the salt, and I give you 2 cakes to try, you will choose immediately the chocolate cake that has a small amount of salt as the one that is more delicious. Fantastic. So now we understand proportions. Let's now slowly give you a few tips before you start creating your own dishes. Now there's a few tips that are going to make you successful. These are kind of like the secrets that we discovered through trial and error. The first one, surprise. Surprise is critical to making a dish stay delicious for a longer period of time. So what I want to do is I want to give you an example of the same dish made two different ways with the same ingredients to illustrate specifically how you can incorporate surprise into a dish. So let's make pumpkin soup. Now the ingredients we're going to use are going to be garlic, bacon, green apple, pumpkin, and rosemary. Same ingredients, both soups, just made slightly differently. Let's start now with the first way, which I call the European way. The European way. So, again, French chef, probably big mustache, really tall hat. And then the idea for this soup is much more mastery. It's adding ingredients into a pot at different times, with different quantities, at different temperatures. It's like a witch with a cauldron. It is difficult to master this. And you must follow a precise recipe. So let's see how a French chef would do it. You'd probably start out with adding bacon to the pan, salty. You'd then cook that bacon, render the fat, and then add garlic and start to toast the garlic, bitter. You then add water, pumpkin, bring it up to a boil, sweet. Start cooking it. The minute it boils, green apple, sour. A sprig of rosemary, aroma. And cook it until the pumpkin is tender. As soon as it's tender, remove the rosemary, puree the soup into a bowl, dollop of whipped cream, done. Now the first bite, delicious, I agree, but the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth bite are the same. And the soup starts to become boring and repetitive and texture. It's just like eating baby food over and over again. So good soup, delicious soup, difficult to make, and bloody boring after the first few mouthfuls. Now let's look at the same soup made very differently. Now I call this more the Asian way of cooking. Now this is something I've learned after spending almost 18 years in Asia. And this is how I make the soup at Cuca. We don't serve pumpkin soup, but if we did, this is how I make the soup. And this is how I want you to start cooking starting today. Same idea, but we're going to look at those elements and we're going to try to maximize the flavor. So for sweet, we're only going to focus on the pumpkin and how do we make it even more bloody sweet. So maybe we roast it in the oven until it starts getting golden. Then we take it, we throw it into a bucket of water, we puree the hell out of it, and we've got beautiful sweet soup. That's it. Into a bowl. Now if you eat it on its own, it's only sweet. Good. Good. You want to push the sweet flavor. Then we're going to roast bacon in the pan. Same way the French guy did. Roast it in the pan, render the fat, and we're going to sprinkle the crispy bacon, salty, over top of that soup. Then we're going to take the green apple, we're going to slice it in beautiful little matchsticks, and we're going to sprinkle those over the soup. Sour. Then we're going to take the garlic, we're going to toast it, get it all crispy, sprinkle that, bitter. And rosemary, just a little easy chop, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Now, think about what we've done. A monkey could roast a pumpkin and puree it with water. An idiot could basically cook the bacon till crispy, roast some garlic, chop some rosemary, and basically grate some green apple. I mean, a 4-year-old child could do this preparation. And you don't need to balance it, you don't need a recipe, you're just dumping these elements on the soup. But what happens when you eat it? Something magic happens. When you go into the soup, your first bite is sweet soup with salty bacon. Boom! The next bite, sweet soup with sour green apple and bitter garlic. So the soup continues to change and become better and more exciting, and no two bites are the same. Also, texture. So let's now move to that idea of mouthfeel, because this is one of the last elements you really need to remember. Now, if the whole soup is baby food, it becomes boring after a while. And there's a few different textures or mouthfeels that you need to remember and consider when you're cooking. Things like texture. crispy or soft? What about moisture, like wet or dry? Fluidity, the difference between cream or water, or temperature, like an iced tea or a hot coffee. Chewiness, like gumminess of a marshmallow, or fattiness like bacon or cream or cheese. Sensations, like the burning heat of a chili or the cool freshness of mint. Now, these are elements that must be considered when you're composing your dishes to make sure they're exciting. So not only do I know this as a chef, but big industries master this. Cereal companies like Kellogg's, they know about this. And their goal is to keep cereal crispy in milk for as long as bloody possible, so that the texture remains exciting. Now, if you just look at how you use this on an everyday life, well, texture is the way the human understands to love or to hate something immediately. Imagine you go to a restaurant and you order a piece of fish, and you put it in your mouth and it's mushy and dry. You think, this has been frozen, definitely not fresh. Or imagine we serve you a bowl of potato chips, and instead of crunch, 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 you end up with soggy, soggy, soggy. And you think stale, again, not fresh. So this is, again, something that is critical for you to understand when you create your own dishes. Last tip. There's 2 more categories that we haven't spoke about. Now, you can't categorize rice, for example, because we haven't done it yet. So where do you put rice? Sweet, sour, salty, bitter? No. You can't. Aroma? Also no. So how do you categorize rice? Well, first you need to understand that we need carbohydrates. So carbohydrates give us energy, they're critical, they allow humans to be able to gain power throughout the day. Now, carbohydrates are flavor absorbers. So they grab and they carry flavor like sponges. They're like a school bus transporting deliciousness to us. But you can't categorize them under those categories. So we need to create our own category for carbohydrates, which is called fillers. Now, every country has filler. France has bread, Italy has pasta, in Canada we have potatoes, China has rice. So filler is critical, and when you select it, we'll explain exactly how to use it. Last category, before you start drumming up your own recipes, protein. Chicken, seafood, poultry, meats, game, all these proteins, we're just going to lump into their own category to make it easy to create your own dishes. So let's move to exercise 5 and let the games begin. So these are the steps that you need to create your own dishes. And they're simple. There's 5 of them. They're on the bottom left of your worksheet. This is your cheat sheet. This is your Bible. This is critical for you being able to complete your mission of cooking without recipes. Let's review those steps. Step number 1, what the hell do you want to make? And that's totally up to you. Snack, appetizer, main course, dessert. Up to you. Step number 2, select a protein if you want. Now, it's not necessary for you to have a protein. This is not mandatory. This is totally optional. If it's Thanksgiving, maybe you want to tick turkey. If you're a college student in a dormitory and you're living on a big budget, maybe you want to skip the expensive protein. If you're a vegetarian, maybe you skip it as well. Totally up to you. Step number 3, select a filler if you want. So if this weekend, marathon, maybe you go with rice. If you're slimming down for that bikini summer body, maybe you want to skip the heavy carbohydrate or the pasta. Now the next one is not an option. So 2 and 3, up to you. Yes or no. But the next one is absolutely mandatory. Step number 4, you need to select one ingredient for each of the flavor categories. One for sweet, one for sour, one for salty, one for bitter, and one for aroma. Now, when you make this selection, now is a very important time to choose what's in season. You go to the market. whatever's in season, whatever looks fresh, whatever's affordable, and whatever you feel like eating. So this is now where you really start to fly. Now, last one, number 5, you go back to the very beginning. So you go back to question number 2, which is select a protein if you want, and you simply need to put a cooking method for all of those options. You need to put a cooking method for your protein, a cooking method for your filler, a cooking method for your sweet, your sour, your salty, your bitter, your aroma. Simple, simple, simple. Now to show you how bloody simple it is, we're gonna create the first dish together. Like small little children, I'm gonna hold your hands through the first process. So let's go through those questions. Question number 1, what do we wanna make? So let's go with main course. A lot of you aren't gonna be cooking appetizer, main course, dessert every night. Let's tackle the dominant one of main course. Question number 2, select a protein if you want. I want. This morning I was at Jimbaran Market in Bali, very close to Cuca, sunset, next time, and they have amazing fresh local prawns. So I bought a bag of beautiful fresh local prawns. So under protein, I want you to write prawns. Write it down. You shouldn't need to be told. Question number 3, filler. So in this case for the filler, I'm going to choose baby potatoes. Beautiful small local potatoes. So I want you to write baby potatoes under filler. Step number 4, the main bulk of ingredients. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, aroma. So for sweet, pineapple. For sour, yogurt. For salty, we're going to use fish sauce. For bitter, I'm going to go with peanuts. Now these are all simple things. And for aroma, as I'm a chef, with the kitchen, we're going to give you a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to smoke one of my ingredients. And the smoke is then going to represent the aroma in the dish. So for aroma, I want you to write smoke. So step number 5, we're going to go back and we're going to apply a cooking method to those items. So the prawns, we're going to barbecue them. The baby potatoes, I'm going to steam them, and then I'm going to smoke them. The pineapple, now remember the goal is to push that sweetness. I'm going to slice it thin, long, beautiful, almost like little noodles, but you know, almost like a parpadelle, and I'm going to dry it in my warmer or in an oven at about 100 Celsius for 2 hours, just to concentrate the sugar. Good. For the yogurt, all I'm going to do is hang it. Remove the water, concentrate the sourness. The fish sauce, the salty component, I'm just going to marinate the prawns 5 minutes before we grill them so that they get all salty and happy. So I'm going to use it as a marinade. The peanuts, we're simply going to roast them, and then we're going to crush them. And the aroma, we said smoke, we're going to use it to smoke the potatoes. Now this moment where you're putting all of your methods for cooking, that's where you want to think of mouthfeel. So now you analyze and you think, if everything is baby food, start to add some texture. If everything is crispy, start to add some soft elements. If everything is hot, maybe you want to add a cold, fresh element. So that's the dish. Simple, simple. We've got barbecued prawns with a creamy kind of smoked potato and pineapple salad, freshly crushed peanuts with the delicate aroma of smoke. Now this dish is a bloody winner. And the next dish, the next lesson that you have, which is exercise 7, I want you to do this one on your own. So you're going to do this one on your own. No more hand holding. You're going to go through it. You're going to follow the same steps. And when you select ingredients, don't start planning a dish. Don't start saying, I'm going to make a cake and start plugging things in. Just start grabbing for sweet, for this, and start putting ingredients together based on flavors, and after merely assemble. Like what we did the pumpkin soup. Got it? Good. Now, if you have any questions or you feel like you're off the yellow brick road, send me a message and we'll steer you right back. But do try, do try, right? We're friends, but I mean, okay. Now, that's it, guys. That's it. Our promise to you was teach you how to understand flavors and make you wean off recipes, allowing you to essentially create your own dishes without being so dependent on these recipes. You can do that now, and you saw how easy it was. Now, what do you do with all those bloody cookbooks? Because I'm sure, Martha, you're just full of cookbooks floor to ceiling. Cookbooks are awesome. You don't want to get rid of your cookbooks. Cookbooks are amazing to be able to guide you on how to cook. Not what to cook, but how to cook, how to grill, how to bake, how to steam, how to broil. And if you look at those beautiful photos, they're going to give you all the inspiration of how to assemble dishes so that they look beautiful instead of just mounding them up like a pile of crap. So do use those cookbooks, but don't be so handcuffed by recipes. You know what I mean, puppies? And I'd like to say thank you to you guys, puppies and optimists. Thank you guys very much for joining. Cook your heart out. Don't be dependent on those recipes. You see, the optimists are like, thank God. I get it. Outlaws. So now you're ready to destroy people. Now, not everyone pays attention, so you can still attack. You can still attack the puppies and the optimists, because for sure, having dishes and methods for cooking and ideas for ingredients, it's easy, but it's not as easy creatively as what you may think. The best solution to that, no problem, Cuca social media. Now, the way I tell you how to cook is how we cook every day. So if you need some direction, ideas, or inspiration, follow us at Cuca Bali and see exactly how we use amazing local ingredients with clever cooking to create new delicious dishes. It's easier than you think. Don't forget about us. This video has been recorded, so if you did have to walk the dog, answer your phone, or do something you shouldn't, and we told you you shouldn't, you can go back and watch that small part again to make sure that you can be successful with your objective. Live chat is exactly what we're going to continue after this. So if you have questions or comments, you send them and we'll give you an answer back so that you can continue with the plan of cooking a delicious dinner tonight. Don't forget to share the video though. Obviously, we're giving you all the love. This is what happens. You think you now know the secret and you want to keep it to yourself. So your friends come over and you are the superstar. But you know the problem is they're gonna want to go to your house. You are handcuffed at your home. You need to share the love, share the video, get them figuring it out. So actually you can go to their house and they're not always only bloody coming to your house, because that gets tiring. You see, immediately the outlaw's like, I was never gonna do it in the first. I know you weren't gonna do it in the first place. So don't forget, video's recorded. Don't forget to share it. And last but not least, nothing in the world comes for free. Now, we did this for you guys for free. 22 years of deep trauma, abuse, all for free. But remember, now you gotta give back the love. So the next time you're heading to Bali, don't forget to stop by Cuca. Now you think, but I'm not planning on going to Bali. I understand. But for sure you know somebody that is. Stop by the restaurant, come and say hello to us, and taste for yourself how we do what we told you how to do and understand what all the hype is about with Cuca. Thanks to all of you for joining. Kevin from Cuca in Bali. See you soon.